Welcome back to the Mickelson Racing Channel. This week, we're going to go over the differences between an $800 engine and a $15,000 engine. We're going to go through the $800 engine first and all the details of it, and then we're going to go into the $15,000 engine and go through the details of that. These are both the same displacement, 7.4 liter 454 engines. They're both iron block. They're both iron heads. But that's about where the similarities stop. Folks, I can't wait to go through these engines with you, but really quick, I have to do an emergency trailer light rewire. So let's just go do that real quick, and then we'll just pop right back to these engines. Guys, the trip to Florida over the winter time with this car trailer was a rough one. You can see just how rusty and stuff all this stuff got from driving through the Midwest and down into Florida during the winter time, and then parking in Florida for a week where they get a lot of salt and stuff in their air, and it just corrodes things. So I had a bunch of these Scotch clips in my wiring here, and they were causing a bunch of problems. This light didn't work at all, and the other side only worked with blinker. I cut them all out of here, and we have to put some new deals in. So we're just going to use these crimps. I like these. These are really nice to use. And then we're going to put some heat shrink over the top, and then we should be good to go. I'll probably clean up that ground as well, so we're good. No big deal. Just got to do that real quick, and I'll be right back into the content. Thanks for being patient, guys. Now let's get back to our freaking engines. So here is our $800 engine. I pulled this engine out of somebody's backyard when I was in high school for $800. Now this thing was in a 1984 Chevy C30 pickup truck. It's a two-wheel drive, 1-ton pickup truck. I don't know if it was a flatbed or a tow truck or a pickup truck, or I don't know, but that's about all I knew about it. And it was in bad shape. We set it in here, we ran it for 8 miles, and we spun a bearing. So we had to take the whole thing apart. We had to bring it to the machine shop. I believe he had to take 40 thou off of the crank, so we got some huge bearings, some main bearings in here. And then everything else was pretty much okay. We got standard rings, standard rod bearings, we got a double roller timing chain, etc. So all in all, I've got about $2,000 into this engine with the machining and the rebuild and all that stuff, but it was an $800 initial purchase price. Now, this engine, it's got peanut port heads, so little teeny peanut port heads on it. They don't flow a whole lot of air. It'll only rev to about 5,500 RPM just because it doesn't flow enough air. It's only got this little tiny intake manifold on it. As you can see, it's real flat. It's still an emissions intake manifold. Someday we'll change that out for something a little better. So this is an emissions engine, 1984. It is a 2-bolt main engine, and it is only 8.5-to-1 compression. So that's pretty low, pretty dang low. We do have a comp cam in this unit. It's an RV cam, really small lift. I want to say 265 lift. So it's pretty minimal, but it is an RV cam. And then with the peanut port heads and this tiny little intake manifold, it does make pretty dang good bottom end torque. Now, some of you hot rod guys might be thinking, oh, it's weird to have really small heads that don't flow anything. But anyway, it's really good for pump gas with that low compression, and with the peanut port heads, it does make some real good bottom end torque. The problem is, actually I don't really have a problem with this at all, is that it really only revs to about 5,500 RPM. And after about 5,000, it just really starts to die. There's really no power to be had there. I don't know what engine numbers or what power numbers it makes like this, but in the stock configuration, it made about 255 horsepower and about 380 foot-pounds of torque. At least that's what the internet tells me. So that's what you get with an $800 engine. Now, the more interesting stuff happens over here with our $15,000 engine. So this guy right here is our $15,000 engine. Now that's what it would cost you if you were to replace it today. Go find one for sale. Try. I dare you. It's really hard. There's a couple of them out there. They're about 15 grand if you want a 454 LS7 big block. That's what this guy is. LS7 big block. Now GM produced these. They were going to put them in the Corvettes, but then the insurance companies told GM that they would not insure the cars with these engines in them. So GM then decided to sell them as crate engines over the counter, and that's what we have here. So this engine is actually a 1990 crate engine. It's an LS7 454. It's the same displacement as this engine, 7.4 liter 454. It's got 4 1/4 bore and a 4-inch stroke. That's the same on both engines here. This LS7 454, it's got a 12.5 to 1 compression ratio. We run this thing on race gas, 110 octane race gas, so it makes some pretty good power. We run a bunch of timing in this thing. It is a race engine. We only run it for a 1/4 mile at a time, and it is at wide open throttle. So as you can see, we do have an aluminum intake manifold on this unit, and we also have some huge heads. These are the LS7 heads on here, iron heads, but they are some really great flowing. I believe they're cathedral port heads on this guy, and they really flow some great RPM. We have the rev limiter set at 7,000 on this guy. I believe it could go over that because this thing flows really good. This is a 4-bolt main engine, and the LS7s had forged cranks, forged rods, and forged pistons, which is really great for making some pretty good power. I think factory they made about 465 horsepower and about 490 foot-pounds of torque, give or take, depending on your configuration. Now we do have a cam in this unit. We don't refresh the cam every time we refresh the engine, but every one now and again we do refresh the cam. So we do have a cam in this unit. Again, double roller timing chain. We do have an electric water pump, nice harmonic balancer on this guy. We do run headers. We got some Mickey Thompson fin valve covers on this deal. Like I said, aluminum intake manifold, and we do have a Holley carburetor on this guy, as well as HEI ignition. So similarities between these two engines, they include the displacement, the bore and the stroke, the iron block, and the iron heads. That's about where it ends. The differences are, we've got a forged crank versus a cast crank, forged pistons, cast pistons, forged rods, cast rods. This thing's got 12.5 to 1 compression. That's got 8.5 to 1 compression. 110 octane race fuel, pump gas, 87, 91, whatever you're to your liking. We've got some nice flowing, I believe, cathedral port heads on this guy. We've got some peanut port heads on this guy. We've got a high-rise aluminum intake manifold. It's not high-rise. A little bit of a rise aluminum intake manifold. We've got the factory flat cast iron intake manifold on this guy. We do both have HEI ignitions on this guy. And we've got a Holley carbonator on this one and a fast TBI fuel injection unit on that one. So what's better, you might ask? That depends on your application and what your taste is. This guy you can run down the road, you can tow a pretty good trailer with all the power in the world, and you're not going to have a problem. With this guy, you're going to overheat, and you don't have drivability because this thing is radical. With all that airflow and that cam, this thing is pretty radical to drive on the street. But you want to go racing, this is your engine. It's reliable, it's GM parts, it makes really good power, a lot of torque, and it runs on race gas. There's no good, better, best in this situation. It's two different builds, two different applications, two different styles. It's all about what you want. Well, thanks again for watching the Mickelson Racing channel. I appreciate you watching the videos and liking and subscribing right here in the corner of this video. Also, check out our merchandise page, Mickelson Racing Channel merch. It'll be the link below in the description. We'll see you next week on the Mickelson Racing channel.